So now to set up the RVTs, we're going to go ahead and right click, and we're going to create a runtime virtual texture. So you right click, you go to materials and textures, and you click runtime virtual texture. Let's name this our landscape color texture. This is going to be our landscape color texture. Now we're going to create another one because we're going to be needing two. And we're going to name this landscape height. Right. Now, what we're going to do is click twice on our landscape color and pull it up. In this panel, you're going to just leave it at this. Over here, we can control the content of our virtual texture. I usually leave it like this because we have all of the channels, like we have extra channels if we need to. If you want to cut down on memory or performance, maybe you would like to use just the base color, since this is just a color texture and we're not gonna actually need any of these other channels. But I'm gonna leave it as is, but you can change that. I'm gonna save it. And in our landscape height, we're gonna do the same thing. And over here, however, we're gonna press world height, so that this texture only stores height information for our landscape. Good. All right, in our scene now, I'm gonna just delete the initial thingy. I'm gonna create a folder called RVT. I've created the folder RVT, and I go over here in the actors panel, and I search for runtime virtual texture. I'm gonna drag two runtime virtual texture volumes into my scene and place them inside my folder. And I'm going to rename this one color. I'm going to rename this one height. Right. So these are our runtime virtual textures inside of our scene. I'm just going to reset their location. It's not really needed. It doesn't matter where they are located. I just like to have them at the 0 of the world. So over here in our details panel, we're just going to assign our virtual texture file to our scene virtual texture. So landscape color to our color and landscape height to our height. This is pretty much done. Now, this setup is pretty much done. Now, what we need to do is create a landscape. So I'm just going to create any landscape. You can tweak the size of your landscape over here to the side. We can control the size, the resolution of it, the number of components. You could go with like 1 by 1 and it's gonna look like this. It's pretty huge. The resolution of these, you can maintain. Can you maintain it and then raise it? I don't know. Yeah, probably not. Anyway, let's create a 1 by 1, right? And just create. There, now we have ourselves a landscape. I'm thinking about something else. You can see on the top left, it says lighting needs to be rebuilt. That refers to the static lighting in Unreal. What static lighting means is that instead of having real-time shadows, so if you move this cube, you can see that the shadows get updated as it moves. That's a real-time shadow. Instead, when you build lighting for static objects, so the cube is static over here, and when you have the skylight as static and the light source as static as well, and you build this, the shadow is going to stay here even if you move the cube. So that's a static shadow. We're not going to be using baked, and that's called baked lighting. So we're not going to be using baked lighting. We're going to be using movable, so dynamic lighting. So I'm just going to set these two, the skylight and the light source, to movable. And to ensure that it stays that way and that we only get dynamic lighting for the remainder of our scene, I'm going to go over here to world settings. And if you don't have this, you can go to window and world settings. And we're going to force no pre-computed lighting. So this is going to prevent the engine to bake any sort of lighting. This is only if you don't want baked lighting, right? This is only if you want fully real-time lighting all the time. So it's warning us now that the force node pre-computed lighting is enabled and build lighting wants to propagate the change. Okay, so what we're going to do is go over here, build lighting only. There. Now you can see there's a difference now because there was some pre-computed information. So now we have no pre-computed information whatsoever. This is a completely real-time scene. So anyway, now that's out of the way, let's go over here to our color. And we're going to go into our details panel. And the way this volume works, I don't know if you can see it, probably not. Not even I can see it. But it's basically a little cube. And everything inside this cube writes to, or rather, the actor that you select that is inside this cube writes to the runtime virtual texture. So we're going to go to our eyedropper here in the details panel under transform from bounds. And we're going to select our landscape. We're going to click set bounds. There. Now it's completely encompassing our landscape, and we're going to do the same for the height. Good. Okay. Another thing, we're going to click on our landscape. Over here in our details panel, we're going to scroll down until we see virtual texture, and we're going to add both of our virtual textures here. This ensures that we write to our virtual textures. Now, if I am correct, this should be all working. So let's test it out.